Hey there, folks. There we go. I think my audio is working now. Hey everyone, how are you guys doing tonight? Put a little frame around me. Look at that. I almost look like a Twitch streamer. I should put little captions. Hey guys, I see there's a few folks here. How do I find my chat? As usual, I'm changing machines. I'm such a bad streamer. I'm good at like teaching, I think, but I'm not very good at YouTube, so I need like a YouTube assistant in a production booth helping me or something. Hello, people. Thanks for showing up. Welcome. This is Monday night neurofeedback and chill, although we're just talking about some topics tonight. Tonight, we're going to go into some aging stuff. Last week, we talked about a UC Irvine paper where nicotinamide plus EGCG restored intraneuronal GTP and sort of kick-started autophagy, sort of a cleanup crew in aged mouse neurons. So today I wanted to put that in the context of a human trial because there is a study showing structural brain changes in people, and a key lesson in that ends up being that the nutrient interventions often only work in the right biochemical context. So stick around to figure out what that is. Because it looked like it's a pretty exciting bit of research. Let me figure out how to get my chat going on this particular, so I can see you guys. This happened last week too. I wasn't kidding. I really do need a, I really do need a assistant. How do I show the chat? I'm just going to bring it up on YouTube. So the study that we are going to talk about tonight shows some interesting stuff. It was a VITACOG trial published in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and it had 168 older adults. And whoops. Let me set this up so I can see your questions. Here we go. Hey folks, hi Leo, hey Jehan. Leo's saying on that note, NAC, inositol, glycine, taurine, bacopa, lithium. Niacin plus omega-3 has been a game changer for me, sometimes lemon balm too. Interesting, those are all great compounds. I have a couple thoughts about one of them. There's some potential side effect stuff going on sometimes. So let me talk about this study. It was an American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. I've linked it below so you can check it out. And there was 168 elder adults for 2 years. So longitudinal study that they were tracked. And a proportion of them got a placebo. And the others got high dose vitamin B. So it was folate, B6, and B12 or placebo for 2 years. And they tracked brain atrophy using MRI, so structural probably MP-RAGE, T1, T2 style MRI, where you can use computerized routines to measure how much weight there is, how much mass there is. And these were all elders above 70 years old who suffered from mild cognitive impairment. Now, MCI is sort of a transitional stage. It doesn't always transition into Alzheimer's type things. It can, it often does. Having MCI increases your risk of getting Alzheimer's type phenomena quite a bit. You can think of MCI like accelerated aging processes and wear and tear processes. There's sort of a line between where aging processes are typical and where they are problematic. And unfortunately, in MCI, we've crossed that threshold. So in most people, most adults past mid-years, you're losing somewhere between 1/4 and 0.5% of the brain, your brain volume per year. And there's things you can do against that. And I'll, at the end of the video or into the live stream tonight, I'll talk about some things you can do to offset that potentially and stack the deck in your favor even further. But normal brain loss volume, normal brain atrophy, so to speak, with aging is around 1/4% to 0.5% per year. And if you have MCI, mild cognitive impairment, your rate of brain atrophy is probably more like 1.5, excuse me, something like that, between 1 and 1.5% atrophy over every year. And then if you kick up into Alzheimer's type phenomena, now you're into multiple percent, 2, 3, 4% per year. And the sort of atrophy is spreading out. It's moving outside of just the medial temporal areas into a more kind of broad set of atrophy. So these are the sort of things we think about in terms of normal aging. And the MCI group, this 168 elder cohort who were participants on this study, they all had MCI. So they all had this accelerated atrophy phenomena. And here's the kicker. They looked at the brain atrophy, this accelerated atrophy at the end of 2 years, and the placebo versus the intervention group. The intervention group had 40% less brain atrophy. So a huge volume sparing effect. This is just about the same level of effect you would get by not having MCI. You know, given that, right? It's a quarter to a half, and if it's doubled or tripled with MCI, and then you pull it back by 40%, it's a huge corrective sort of trajectory modifying treatment, it seems. So the B vitamins again were folate, B6, and B12, B9, 6, and 12. And they were high dose. I have it in my notes here. But there was a kicker. They found that there was not a consistent response across every member in this cohort. They segmented them out by serum omega-3 fatty acid levels, or blood levels. They segmented them out by blood levels of omega-3s. So not the dietary omega-3, but the literal amount they were carrying around. And this takes weeks or months sometimes to build up sort of metabolically. And they found that the B vitamin intervention, 40%, was true for people who had a high baseline omega-3 fatty acid already. But if the omega-3s were low, the vitamins did basically nothing. So we have a real world randomized placebo-controlled trial where nutrient synergy mattered more than single inputs. So omega-3s here with the B vitamins seem to be the real kicker. So in the earlier study we talked about last week, the UC Irvine nicotinamide plus EGCG study, nicotinamide fuels NAD and the mitochondrial GTP, and EGCG tweaks the redox balance, the reduction balance through the NRF2 pathway. So it's not about flooding the cell with one thing in that case either. It's about the context, creating the context in this case for energy and redox. So the B vitamin plus omega-3 data here illustrates kind of the same point. B vitamins support this one carbon metabolism and methylation, and it keeps homocysteine down, keeps cofactors recycling. It's a very similar kind of process. And omega-3s, especially DHA, are structural components of neurons. You know, when you're born, I forget what the stat is, but it's something like 3/4 or 80% of your brain is DHA. And then it's less as we get older, but it's a pretty big structural component of cell membranes. So without DHA in place, the B vitamins couldn't slow atrophy, essentially. And together, they could. This parallel is clear. The nutrients rarely act in isolation. The background, the matrix, the context seems to matter. All right, let me stop for a second and say hello to people. Hello, Radar Ashwood, and I see Sonia. Hi, Sonia. How are you guys doing tonight? Do you guys take your omega-3s with this little bit of information? I know that, let's see, I think Leo said he did, right? Oh yeah, omega-3. Hey Leo, what omega-3 do you like? Not to put you on the spot, or anyone else, what omega-3s do you like? There's a new omega-3 that I've seen come on the marketplace just in the past year or two, and people have been excited about it for 5 or more years because of how impactful the animal literature was in models of aging and in models of brain injury. Also vision models, vision recovery. So there was this really impressive body literature with animal models and LPC-DHA, lysophosphatidylcholine, or choline bound to DHA. And in this form, this phosphatidylcholine bound to DHA, the conformation of the molecule is such that it gets into the brain in very high concentrations. So regular DHA compared to this is 6 to 10 times higher concentration. It's ridiculous. Now, remember, caveat, this is not medical advice, ask your doctor, but it's important not to ramp up omega-3s in our diet really rapidly because they're solvents, essentially. Cell membranes are made of these things. So you can create problems if you ramp up a dietary, so to speak, a supplemental regimen of omega-3s really rapidly. This might be an argument for getting it out of food sources if you can, but it's hard to get enough in this case. And the LPC format, which is a little higher in krill than regular omega-3s, is still not very high in krill. So a company created a sort of cascaded, artificially concentrated version that hyper saturates the DHA with and EPA with the LPC, and so you have LPC bound to EPA and DHA. It's called Lysoveta, Lysov as in Victor, ETA. I don't have a link. I don't have a product discount for you. I'll find one if I can and include it later. But it's a great compound, and I'm seeing some people report interesting things on it as a high absorption, brain-focused DHA and EPA compound. So let's see, some questions about omega-3s. Jehan is asking, do you need to refrigerate omega-3 fatty acids? Depends is the short answer. Often, yes. But I would say that it's worse than that. It's that most omega-3s on the shelf are probably already rancid. And so you should look for, I think it's the esters. That's usually the better form. And then, sorry, not esters, triglycerols, triglyceride form generally. The fat itself is the form you want. Those will often be refrigerated. The problem is manufactured omega-3s are notoriously unstable and are probably rancid by the time they hit the shelves in the place you buy them half the time. So I would go after like a high volume place. This is one of the reasons I buy from places like Amazon. I figure it's high enough volume that there's turnover and they're getting really rapid resupply sometimes for mainstream products like that. So I don't think you need to refrigerate them always, but I think that many of the brands just don't have great quality control and or show up rancid. So, it's tough. Leandro is saying Nordic Naturals 2X EPA DHA. Cool. Yeah, it's a good one. I like that one. El Chatarino, big fan of the brand, the branch chain aminos. Branch chain amino acids, really? BCAAs? Interesting. Cool. Hey, El Chad. Hey, Ryan, how's it going? Any brand omega-3 your favorite? I've been using Nordic Naturals. I like Nordic Naturals. I also like Life Extension. I have the Life Extension, like the Super Omega with some sesame oil and some lignans in it. I kind of like that one. But Nordic Naturals are good too. I like those. But I think they're all a little questionable. And then I haven't tried the Lysoveta yet, but I think I might at some point. So, hey, Radar Ashwood, DHA 500 fish oil from Now Supplements. Cool. Okay. Radar is saying you can keep fish oil in the freezer, helps prevent fishy burps. Yeah, I think once you're fishy burping, once it's gone to the point where there's a fish rancid burp going on, that's a sign that it's actually rancid, I believe. So if you find that you're prone to that from a particular brand or supplement, it may just be that they're spoiled. Hey, Ilya, nice to see you. I wonder if there's a way to find out the source of the omega-3s and studies that have shown their benefits. Yeah, you can often look at the format, I believe, and there are some studies looking at absorption and metabolic effects across different types. So you can find some of that out. Sure. All right. So back to our discussion of our study. Omega-3s, DHA, these are structural components of the brain, and without them in place, the B vitamins couldn't work. So this is sort of a direct parallel to the riboside or NR experiment in humans we saw last week, when Alzheimer's trial at 3 grams a day failed because many participants methylated it away before it reached the brain. The subset with measurable CSF nicotinamide did show reduced tau. So context and metabolism matter. So if they segment out that way, they did find the effect. Same thing here. If you segment out by omega-3 status, you find an effect of the B vitamins. So Just like in the nicotinamide study, the VITACOG study sort of is showing us that cofactors set the stage for whether the supplements work or not. So, here's the takeaway. I wouldn't think of these things as single bullets. Think ecosystems. Think brain NAD may rise with riboside, but autophagy cleanup depends on redox, methyl donors, membrane health. The VITACOG trial is a powerful human example, 40% reduced brain atrophy, but only in those with the right omega-3 background. In other words, biology respects context. This is why I talk about stacks in my own framework when I help design True Brain, when I'm building my own sort of targeted stacks for like an evening regimen or a workout regimen. I kind of think about these little, combination compounds that will serve different needs. Now, I prefer neurofeedback as my big heavy lifter, but I do use a lot of supplements. So that's the general set of takeaways. And then I did promise that I would tell you some ways you can offset some of this brain aging. Now, again, omega-3 seem to be a good strategy. Also, meditation. Now, I've mentioned this in other live streams, but Sarah Lazar, Dr. Lazar, found in her and her colleagues' work that there's a really significant sort of sidestepping of cortical thinning that happens with age if you meditate. So you may lose that 0.25% or 0.5%, but if you meditate routinely, and the regularity seems to be more important than the amount, if you meditate regularly, then you seem to get the benefits of that enough to offset that first, let's say natural volume loss. And then if you have a significant difficulty, you can be hopefully pulling the fuel off the fire by not adding oxidative stress through sugars and sort of like tweaking that type 3 diabetes direction. And then you can maybe throw some nicotinamide and some EPA and some high dose B vitamins in. So I think I skipped the dosing. Here we go. So 168 elderly participants, all above 70 years old with MCI, given high-dose B vitamins. Folic acid was 0.8 milligrams, high for folic acid, but not a huge dose. B6 was 20 milligrams, and I didn't notice if it was like a P5P version of B6. That might change the dosing if you're doing a P5P because that's more absorbable or more active. And then B12 was 0.5 milligram. So these are large doses, but not huge doses. But they were defined as high dose in the study. So they found the omega-3 levels had to be above 590 micromoles per liter. I'm not sure what that translates to dietarily. And no benefit from the B vitamins for those with low omega-3 status in their serum, low serum concentration. So there were a couple of follow-ups. A systematic review concluded that among 12 B vitamin trials in older adults, only this one, showed benefit. And even then, only in specific subgroups like those with high omega-3s or genotypes, so to speak. Another post hoc analysis by Gong in 2022 showed that B vitamins slowed cognitive decline in MCI, but again, only with one subset. In this case, it was people with greater atrophy in the left frontal lobe at baseline. So that's interesting. I think of the left frontal lobe as an approach system. I think of B vitamins as being metabolic drivers in some ways, lubricators, enhancers. So it's almost like they help the part of the brain that's leaning in the most. That'll be easy to remember, at least. I'm not sure if it's valid scientifically. So, basically this should help you think about ways to strategize and, maybe meditation, maybe other healthy habits. And then you can go after your own strategy potentially. So, yeah, those are my big takeaways from this study. I thought I would share them with you. Thanks for checking it out. Kind of a short, I guess about 20 minutes. I think this is a good format. If I don't get the neurofeedback system back up and running quickly, I'll just do 20-minute discussions of a topic and then hang out and answer questions. So Leo's asking, have you had a chance to look into plasmalogen supplements, emerging early stage human data, interesting biomarker changes, clinical outcomes, cognition, and function? I have not. Are these some of the small molecules? Some of the new small molecule studies being released? I'm not sure. Sonia's asking, what omega-3 do I recommend for kids? How much DHA, EPA intake daily? I don't know, Sonia, about kids. I would definitely ask a pediatrician that question in terms of dosage, because I think it might matter. I think kids might need more. I mean, my gut feeling on this would be that kids need more omega-3s than adults, that kids need DHA more than EPA because the brain is made up of DHA. But it's largely built, in a bunch of ways. So I would, if I had a child, I'd probably would verify with my pediatrician that giving some DHA every day wasn't a bad idea, and I would just give them some just to cover those bases. And I would also try to get an omega-3 rich diet. I'd try to get my kids into like sardines and mackerel and other kinds of things if I could. Stuff like that, So Leo's asking, similar to omega-3, or telling us, plasmalogen is similar to omega-3. Interesting. I haven't looked at it. I'll check it out though. Jehan is saying, lots of meditation methods out there. Do you have recommendations? Binaural beats, alpha, theta. So I do have recommendations on meditation. If you go to the andrewhillphd.com website, the main website with the live streams and the articles on it, you'll see that I have a couple articles or little guides on meditation. One on how to do it, a basic practice that says don't just do something, sit there. And that one's about 5 minutes of doing a concentration practice to anchor the attention, and then 15 minutes of doing an awareness practice, insight Western style, so to speak, Theravada style, if you will. But it's sort of like a concentration and then a present time awareness. And I break down a little bit more about what meditation is and my ways of thinking about meditation. I really do segment meditation out into the type of anchor. So I believe that all meditation is sort of the act of paying attention intentionally, on purpose, the act of paying attention on purpose to something specific in a particular way. And then you sort of do something while you're doing it where you, instead of judging and reacting to what you're doing, you may have to note or observe, but you hopefully don't. You can let the moment of experience happen. And the anchor becomes absorptive or concentration initially. And then you can move from that more still, stable place into an awareness practice where you're watching information and reality kind of flow by. So that's my basic. And then I have a whole wrap on how to dig into building other meditation practices if you're interested. Binaural beats, Jehan, I don't think do anything. I've done a lot of research in the labs using double-blind, placebo-controlled, triple-blind, placebo-controlled kind of stuff. And I couldn't find any neural impact at all that was different than just any kind of audio, essentially. So I think binaural beats are just another stimulus, and it gives us something as a meditative anchor. And the very, very weak effects that here and there you'll see are really from the fact that people are being forced to meditate or being given an experience of meditating or something. I don't think there's very much there in binaural beats, honestly. I think there's no real frequency following response in humans. It's never really been demonstrated. It's been seen in animals, but in humans, I don't know that we have that one. And I think the lack of real good, compelling binaural beat literature and the fact that I failed to see instance one of any impact from binaural beats that was specific to the nature of the stimulus, so to speak, versus having a stimulus. So. And then alpha theta neurofeedback, I love it. It's not meditation. It's more hypnagogic between the aware mind and the asleep mind, halfway in between, the receptive attention, the release. There's creativity there. There's release of trauma there for some people. Alpha theta is powerful stuff. I love it. But I layer it on top of other regulatory supporting, resilient supporting protocols generally. I don't jump right into alpha theta typically. I'll do some other things to help people feel more stable and resilient, and then do alpha theta if they want. Sonia's saying, can I ask a question about neurofeedback in this session? Of course you can. You can ask anything you want, Sonia. Let me know. Radar, Doc, can I randomly walk into Peak Brain for a QEEG, or do I have to have an appointment? You have to have an appointment just because we don't have hugely open schedules generally. Just call up or hit us up on the website or something. But usually in Los Angeles, in the big offices, we're about a week out for scheduling. And in the small offices, we're often a week and a half out. So we have, New York City and Orange County are a bit smaller, and Los Angeles and St. Louis are large offices, and so we have a bit more space and time available. And then we have Florida. West Palm Beach is very small, kind of pop-up style, as is London, as is Stockholm, although all of those will be looking for actual fixed space pretty soon. So plus we have some partners in San Diego, in Nova Scotia, in soon in this fall in Portugal and Spain. Ryan is asking or telling us, I started taking NR for long COVID 2 years ago, and it definitely helped. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Ryan. I still take it. Do you think I should cycle off and on? Good question, Ryan. And I know a little more about your background. Thank you for sharing this. I know more about your background than you've shared too. I would say, I don't know. If it was me, we couch it that way, and I've been dealing with long COVID and found that NR, which is the version I would have hoped that would have helped. Good, I'm glad it did. I'm taking it for a couple of years. I might take a break from it for a week or two, and then I might do an IV, like an infusion, a higher dose or a higher bolus, and see if I noticed any strong effects. And if I didn't, I would assume that I was pretty replete with that stuff sufficiently, and I might do like a bag every couple of months or something instead. That'd be my my thought, Ryan. Ilya is saying, for clients that have plant-based restrictions, what food product or supplements for omegas would you prefer? Chia, probably, Ilya, because you get so much. You get omegas, you get protein, you get fiber. You don't get much else. Kind of lowish carb for seeds. So I think chia is rather magical. What else has omega-3s in it? I don't think you can get currently. I don't think you can get the right kind of omegas in plant-based diets. I will say that someone who has a plant-based lifestyle, for whatever reason, some people who are in that camp, their ethical and moral perspective allows them to eat shellfish, and you can think of Lysoveta essentially as krill oil, that's been doped with choline. So Lysoveta is basically krill oil, or you could get krill oil. So krill, being a little tiny crustacean, it may fit some of the same moral and ethical categories. I don't know. I've been hearing about vegans that eat mussels these days. So, I think there's like a flavor for everything of diet style. Of course, some people have shellfish allergies and things as well. So I would say, Ilya, a bigger potential lever there would be to reduce the omega-6 load. A lot of the omega-3 benefits in the body, at least, probably brain as well, seem to be about the omega-6 load. So while there's lots of things that have some plant versions of omega-3s, like, nuts, for instance, some of those are going to have very high omega-6 as well, or they're going to have secondary omega-6s, oxidized seed oils added in them in roasting, etc. So I think you're going to have to sort of go into looking for omega-3 sources with a perspective of a harm reduction in some ways. Where can I limit the omega-6s? Where can I limit the over-processing or the addition of seed oils into the omega, foods I'm going after? And this is sort of why I like chia as like, a bag of fairly unprocessed seed. You can turn it into pudding, you can turn it into a shake, all kinds of just basic things. So let's see. Leandro's telling us plasmalogens is a class of phospholipids. Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. That's cool. I wonder if Lysoveta is in that category. Let me see what the definition of plasmalogen. Plasmalogen. Why do they name something special? Vinyl ether bond at the SN1 position and an ester bond at the SN2 position of the glycerol backbone. Huh. They're among the most common glycerol phospholipids and are abundant in various biological membranes. Huh, interesting. I will check those out. I wasn't aware of the category name. Sonia's asking, can training a specific region of the brain indirectly make other regions tuned in? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, just in theory, and then I'll give you an actual data point I've gathered in literature or in actual practical research. Common sense, the brain's connected to other parts. And so you can train one area and parts that are connected to it, right, are going to get some impact theoretically. Makes common sense. Also, there's a phenomenon I've observed in the EEG training. And this is why I don't train exactly like some people do. Is I think that the trends of change within session only show up under the training electrode about 50% of the time. And yet, you still get more global evoked response to the rewards. You get this progression of learning, but you only see the localized effect in an obvious way, the trend within session, so to speak, in about half of people. And you still see learning across time in everyone pretty much, but you don't see this within time, this short time course effect necessarily in a reliable way. So I don't watch the trends, but the other thing I've done is a lot of analysis of deep dense array training. So a lot of my initial sort of PhD work was around, I did a double-blind study with left and right hemispheres plus sham tested. So C3A1 as a beta reward, C3A1 as an SMR reward, C4A2 rather, with an SMR reward at 12 hertz or sham. And all participants wore wires at C3, C4, A1, and A2. They actually had two pairs, an A1 and A2, because I was using Thought Technology amps for the neurofeedback. And I set up 6 wires for the 2 channels and ran it into Eager. And then on top of that system, I put on a 64-channel biosemi system, direct DC coupled electrode system. So now you squirt gel through 64 holes, and then you snap in all the little ribbons. And so really a lot of setup. You know, I got it down to about 20 minutes, which is why I can do a regular QEEG in about 10 now. But 20 minutes to get, at least, to get somebody set up in that rig. And then we ran a full 30 minutes of Eager. And we did that on days 1, 3, and 5. And on days 2 and 4, they came in and just did the neurofeedback the same way. And of those people, there was a sham contingent, a sham cohort, unbeknownst to me who they were. It was double blind. And so placebo-controlled. Eager has this feature called a study manager or study module. And you essentially can take samples of EEG you record into Eager ahead of time. And Eager often works in 3-minute chunks, kind of classically that way. So I did a bunch of 3-minute chunks. And then you can designate somebody who's a client or a subject in Eager as either a real or a sham subject. And then you can lock that screen behind a password. So I had somebody come in across the hall and like randomly assign people to vertical or sham and then lock it. And so later on, when all was said and done, I had my placebo group, but it was 16 people of the 40 were in a placebo group. And then I had the others sort of segmented out into the 3 different neurofeedback conditions, so to speak. And here's the big takeaway. You can see there's an effective training. So when you're training on the left, you get an effect on the left. When you're training on the right, you get an effect on the right. When you're training beta, you get an effect in beta. When you're training SMR, the effect's in SMR. It's very specific. And when someone's training in a sham condition, you do not get the evoked potential responses in the frequency. They're called event-related spectral perturbations, ERSP. I mostly saw event-related desynchronizations, ERDs, these bursts of amplitude in a frequency range because you're adding some sort of timing desynchronization when the reward happens. So, if you're measuring 15 to 18 hertz beta on the left-hand side, the beep happens. The beep causes a series of ERPs. There's one for the audio. There's a sort of cognitive, if you will, the information processing. Turns out there's like an ERP component or shift in amplitude and frequency in time, like an ERP, called an event-related spectral perturbation. ERS, ERD, event-related synchronization, event-related desynchronization of the ERP, essentially. These happen in the frequency range you're rewarding neurofeedback in. So if you're rewarding 15 hertz to 18 hertz, you get a little, blue stripe in the change in amplitude of beta. And if you're doing SMR, it happens 12 to 15 hertz. And if you're rewarding on the left-hand side, it happens on the left-hand side much more strongly. Right-hand side, same thing. So you can sort of separate really easily and show the actual physiological signal of the brain reacting, binding to the information stream in neurofeedback. Now, what you can also find out is where else in the brain are things acting. And you find, if you look very carefully, I use something like an SPM software toolkit like you would use for fMRI, and looked at coactivation and a bunch of other stats with the help of people like Pacific Development up in Palo Alto. Dr. Len Trejo published a little bit on this, I think. And we can look at the hemispheres and the coactivations of EEG across different places and how the information is coherent, essentially. And what you find is when you reward beta or SMR at either C3 or C4, you actually do get a homotopic resonance, so to speak. Like if you reward SMR at C4, you get a little bit of C4, if you reward SMR at C4, you get a little bit of SMR showing up at C3 as well, the left side. So you can see that. You can see the brain reacting to it, actually showing reactions in other areas. So it makes sense, long-winded answer, but it makes sense from a common sense perspective as well as from actual experimental. Sonia's also asking, any plan to have an office in the Bay Area, Dr. Hill? Maybe. We are not super prioritized in opening up offices, but we are happy to support people who want to do more neurofeedback, either remotely or by partnering. So we've got a handful of offices now. We're opening up a few more as partnerships. And what that means is people with either existing coaching or therapy practices, or they're going to build one, are becoming a sort of a peak brain branch. And we're going to mentor and do data work and ongoing education, essentially not in a franchise model, more in a brand extension model, but somewhere between that and a franchise in terms of the amount of support you get. And we're layering that in over the next few months as I work on some software to help manage neurofeedback a bit better, because there's a lot involved with management. And I'll have that out before the end of the year, sort of a dashboard for tracking your neurofeedback, your healthy habits, your stress, your sleep, your attention, your mood, and see how these things change against each other and give you a little more of that perspective. That'll make a lot of my job obsolete, which is great. So maybe Sonia, but if the Bay Area is not that far from LA, you can pop down for a map if you want one in person. We can work fully remotely with you. Don't forget that if you want to work with us. Same price, remote and in person. Raider Ashwood is asking, Doc, what advice would you give to someone who wants to do neurofeedback as a career but only has a degree in finance? Go get a job doing neurofeedback. Most people that do neurofeedback well learn to do it well by doing it. Very, very few people got good at it by sitting behind a classroom desk and getting certified in some way and then going to start practice. Most people got good at it by doing it with somebody who knew how to do it. And then you can go add more and more and more. So it's relatively unregulated. You have a lot to learn if you're doing finance. You probably should do for someone like you, I think the BCIA becomes useful, Radar, because it'll show you the blueprint of knowledge that you'll need to master. Like if you already had a psych degree or a neuro degree, I think the BCIA coursework is interesting, maybe useful, but not necessary for everyone. For you, though, it may be exactly what you need, is grabbing the blueprint of knowledge from the BCIA, maybe the one from the IQCB as well, and starting there, chewing through all that stuff while you're working in neurofeedback to make sure you like it. If you do, and you're learning it, you'll start getting good at it, and that will teach you what you need to do next. For me, that was going back to grad school and getting a degree studying neurofeedback because I was so excited about what I saw. Now, I had a psychology undergrad, but it doesn't matter. No one cares what your undergrad degree is in. If you have the interest, the experience, and a little bit of the ancillary coursework that you can make up, through personal training or actual courses, that's fine. Radar is asking, what do you think about multivariance coherence training? I think it's interesting. I've done some of it. It's a little hard to manage. I don't find it any more impactful than surface neurofeedback, so to speak, or 1 and 2 channel stuff, regular stuff. I've done it a handful of times, probably 10 people I've used it with, and I've used it always by getting a multivariate coherence analysis done by somebody who's an expert in that, like Dr. Rob Coben, and then being guided by them. I would say I've only ever seen it create change where regular neurofeedback wasn't doing something once, and it did work really well. And that was somebody with advanced brain injuries, a lot of actually brain atrophy loss. He had lost a lot of white matter from some sort of the theory was chemical exposure over a long time, and he lost a lot of brain tissue, and so there were some white matter changes, and we did an analysis, and he did MV coherence training, 4-channel training, and it really did make a strong impact quickly. I'm not sure if it kept going. His care was taken over by somebody else when he moved to a different city. But I've also tried to use it lots of other times where I was not getting as good results as I wanted to try something else. I'd do this analysis and get some consulting, and I've not found it to be more useful. I've just found it to be another lens, and since I don't know it as well, I can get, and actually in the other 9 times I've gone back to regular 1 and 2 channel training later, and I've gotten better results in 1 and 2 channel training eventually than I got in the few weeks or a month or two I tried working with 4-channel multivariate. So I'm a little skeptical. I like the idea, but in practice, it's sort of like Loretta training where it should work better, but it doesn't. There's something there. There's some complexity. There's something in our theories. Maybe it's just that the complexity gets in the way of perfect data, and then we have, Loretta failed. Maybe the MV coherence algorithms are very sensitive. They probably are to noise. Maybe it's just that. I don't know. But I haven't found them to be reliable tools. So I don't lean into those things very well. The ones I lean into very strongly are the ones that work most of the time, and you can adjust. So again, traditional neurofeedback. 1 and 2 channel training, combinations of channels, some difference, sequences of training. I'm a big fan of sequencing. I did a live stream maybe 3-4 weeks ago about how I think about 1 versus 2 channel and sequences versus duals. There's a lot in that one, actually pretty technical. So you guys who are interested in the neurofeedback stuff can go back and watch that one if you want to. Cool, guys. Well, I think I got my audio and video quality working okay tonight. Could you just weigh in for me if you're old hands to the show and confirm that this actually looks pretty good? A little darker now, but I think my quality's okay. I may get my neurofeedback setup working again here. I have a lot of technical trouble here at home with Windows machines not behaving and Sony cameras not behaving. I can get the training up and running fine, but I can't get the camera working to show it to you at the same time. So that's sort of the point of the neurofeedback and chill, is to do some neurofeedback and chill. So either way, hope you guys are doing really well tonight, and let me know if you've had any more questions on this B vitamin plus omega-3 topic or anything else. Again, Leo, thanks for the plasmalogen heads up as a category of compound, a category of phospholipid. My hunch is if it's a category, I must have come across some of the components, so the exemplars of that category. That's great. All right, guys, so do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I know that about half of our viewers are subscribed. The rest of you subscribe, and then you'll get notifications. Hit the little bell. It'll tell you when I'm live, and you can come ask questions. I am going to start adding some non-live video content to the channel. I know I keep threatening to do that, but I'm going to hire an editor and just have somebody help me finish off some things. This is the curse of the CEO with ADHD, is I'm doing lots of things, but I'm doing lots of things. So All right, guys. Well, have a lovely evening and take care of those brains. And I will talk to you all soon. You take care. Bye-bye.